Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive today. We're going to tackle a topic that's costing businesses, I don't know, probably billions of dollars every year.
Oh, yeah.
And that is just avoidable, simple sales mistakes
Right.
that happen all the time. So to help us with this, we are unpacking an article called 6 Things the Best Salespeople Never Do from the Sales Experts.
Love that.
And we're going to see if we can identify those pitfalls and then turn them into opportunities for greater sales success.
Yeah, for sure.
So joining me again for this deep dive.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, always a pleasure.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it. So we're diving into this blog post by Wynn Nathan Davis, and it's really geared towards salespeople, but honestly, a lot of the insights here I think apply to, sales leaders, executives, hiring managers, anybody who is
Yeah, 100%.
is really involved in sales in any way. This is going to apply to you as well. So let's jump right into the first point: never stop learning. No, never stop learning. I think this is a big one, and this is a crucial one. It's especially I think in sales right now, we're seeing so much change happening. Technology, customer expectations, the level of competition. It's a whirlwind out there, and if you're not constantly learning, you're going to fall behind.
And that's, I think, true in a lot of industries.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely, especially in sales.
For sure.
I mean, it's like, if you're still trying to sell flip phones when everybody wants a smartphone,
Right.
You're not going to be very successful.
Exactly.
So you have to stay on top of it. So what kind of learning are we talking about here specifically?
Yeah, so I think it's multifaceted, right? I think at the core, there's got to be a layer of product knowledge, right? You got to know what you're selling. That's the bare minimum.
Right.
But then there's a layer of sales techniques. There's a layer of methodologies, industry trends, all of that is part of the never stop learning equation.
So like learning a new CRM system or incorporating some kind of AI,
Yeah.
sales tool,
Absolutely.
or, understanding the nuances of social selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or all of that kind of stuff.
All the
So
time. Absolutely.
And it's not just for, the individual salespeople. I mean, as a sales leader,
Yeah.
you really need to build that culture of learning,
Yeah.
throughout the team.
I think it's crucial
Right.
because, at the end of the day, you can provide opportunities
Yeah.
for professional development
Yeah.
and encourage knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
But unless the individual is really kind of taking that on,
Yeah.
it's hard.
And honestly, it's a great way to attract and retain good talent.
100%.
Because I think everybody wants to be in a place where they feel like they're growing and learning.
For sure. Yeah, nobody wants to feel stagnant in their
Yeah.
career. So.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of understanding your audience, let's move on to the second mistake that the sales experts highlight. And that is never make assumptions about your customers.
This is where things get really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been in an industry for a while, you start to think you've seen it all,
Right. Like, I know what these people need.
right? You think you know your customer.
Got it.
And that can really hurt you.
Yeah.
It can hurt you in a lot of ways. It
Yeah.
can damage relationships, and it leads to missed opportunities.
Yeah. And it's really about treating every customer as an individual.
Yeah, every customer is unique.
Right.
100%.
So you can't just, use your past experience or, your gut feeling about what you think that they want or need.
Right.
You really have to kind of come to every interaction with fresh eyes.
You have to.
So how do you avoid making assumptions? Like, it's easy to say don't make assumptions, but what are some practical strategies that, sales leaders can implement to make sure that's happening?
I think one of the biggest things, and the sales experts talk about this, is the power of asking probing questions. And I don't mean like generic probing questions like, what keeps you up at night and
Yeah.
all that.
Right. The same old.
It's got to be more than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to dig deeper.
Yeah.
You got to uncover the
Right.
underlying needs and motivations that are driving their buying decisions.
Okay. So give me an example. Like, let's say I am selling software solutions to manufacturing companies.
Okay?
What would a good probing question look like in that scenario?
Sure. So instead of assuming they need help with inventory management, right, you would maybe ask something like, what are your biggest pain points in your current production process?
Okay.
Right. That opens the conversation up
Yeah.
to really understand what's going on
Yeah.
in their world.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, because by asking these targeted questions, you can uncover needs that the customer might not even be consciously aware of. It's almost like you're a detective. piecing together clues to try to solve this puzzle
I love that. That's a great analogy.
of what's really going on.
Yeah.
So,
And then once you've gathered those insights,
yeah,
you can tailor your solutions
yeah,
to meet their specific needs.
right.
And that moves you from just being a transactional salesperson, right?
Yeah.
You're not just there to close deals. You're actually a trusted advisor.
You're helping them out.
You're helping them. You understand their business,
That's great.
which is powerful.
Yeah, that's a much better position to be in,
For sure.
I think.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so we've covered, the importance of continuous learning and avoiding making assumptions about customers.
Right.
What's next on the list?
So the next one is never ignore customer feedback.
Okay.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
This is a big one because I think so many sales teams don't effectively utilize this incredibly valuable resource.
Yeah, it's interesting because feedback can be kind of a double-edged sword,
It is.
right? We all want to hear positive feedback.
Of course, yeah.
Like, oh, you're doing a great job.
We all love that.
But then the negative feedback, can kind of sting a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So how do you create that culture where people are like embracing the feedback, even the negative feedback?
Yeah. Well, I think, first of all, you have to change the perception from a threat to an opportunity.
Okay.
Right. So good salespeople view feedback as a roadmap for improvement, right?
Oh, interesting.
It helps them refine their sales process,
Yeah.
maybe identify areas for product development,
Okay.
and ultimately they're able to deliver a better customer experience because of it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's about reframing how we think about feedback.
But feedback can come in so many forms. I mean, it can be, direct comments. It could be online reviews, social media, all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you keep track of all that?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
It is.
I think you got to have systems in place to gather and analyze all that feedback.
So CRM tools.
CRM tools, customer surveys, monitoring social media conversations, and even just encouraging your team to solicit feedback after every interaction.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how you gather it.
That's how you gather it.
But then you have to actually, do something with it.
Right.
How do you turn it into something that actually helps you?
So you analyze it,
Okay.
right? You look for patterns.
Okay.
You look for trends.
Yeah.
You look for recurring themes in the feedback.
Yeah.
Identify where your team is excelling, and also identify those areas where there's some room for improvement.
Yeah.
And you can use this information to refine your sales strategies,
Yeah.
to improve your products or services,
Okay.
and to provide targeted training for your team.
So it's not just about, fixing the problems.
Yeah.
It's also about, seeing what's working
Right.
and doing more of that.
Exactly. Find what's working and double down.
Right. And replicating it. Yeah, that's great.
And I think ultimately, by showing customers that you value their feedback and that you're actively using it to improve,
Yeah.
you build trust, and it shows them that you're committed to their satisfaction.
Right, because then they're a part of the process.
They are. They're part of the process.
Right, which is
huge.
great.
That's how you build that loyalty.
Okay, so that is never ignore customer feedback.
Right.
And I think we're going to take a break right there. And when we come back, we will continue our deep dive into 6 things the best salespeople never do. Welcome back to our deep dive into 6 things the best salespeople never do from the Sales Experts. All right, so where did we leave off?
We left off talking about feedback, right?
Right, customer feedback.
Customer feedback.
Never ignore it.
Never ignore it.
So that leads perfectly into this next one. Never skip the follow-up.
The follow-up is so crucial.
It really is. It's so simple, but I've seen it make such a difference.
It is.
Where, you think you've got a deal and then somebody else swoops in.
Right.
And just, does a better job of following up and they end up getting it.
Yeah. Or you think the deal is dead.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you follow up and it's
Right.
like, oh, yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah. So, consistent follow-up, it builds trust, it solidifies relationships, and it leads to more business.
And more referrals.
Right.
Which is huge.
And referrals is the best business.
Those are the best, yeah.
Because they're already kind of pre-qualified. They already sort of trust you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, strategies for follow-up. What can sales leaders do to make sure that their teams are really mastering this?
Well, I think a big part of it is personalization.
Okay.
It can't just be generic. Like you said, you can't just send out an email a week later. It's got to be something more tailored.
Yeah.
So, for example, if, a customer was interested in a particular feature, your follow-up could be a personalized video demonstration.
Okay.
Right.
Or you could send a case study about how another customer used that feature.
Oh, that's great. I like that because it shows that you were listening.
Right.
It shows that you're paying attention to them as an individual.
Exactly.
And that you care.
And you're providing value.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So timing's important too, right?
Timing is everything. Yeah, you don't want to overdo it.
Right.
You don't want to bombard them with calls and emails. That can push people away.
You got to find that sweet spot.
You got to find that sweet spot.
Where you're staying top of mind but not annoying.
Exactly. So how often you follow up and when you follow up, it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah.
The customer's buying journey, how engaged they are, what are they looking for?
Yeah.
All those things come into play.
Yeah. And that's where I think technology can be really helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
CRMs, automation tools.
You can streamline that follow-up process.
Yeah.
Make sure that nothing falls through the cracks.
Right.
But it's important to note, technology is a tool.
Right.
It's not a replacement.
Right. You still got to have that human touch.
100%.
Yeah.
A phone call, a handwritten note, sometimes those things can be much more impactful.
Yeah, it shows that you're going the extra mile. It shows that you see them as a person.
For sure.
Not just a number.
Exactly. Yeah, and that you're in it for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just to make a quick buck.
Okay, so let's move on to number 5.
Yeah.
This one's important, especially in sales. Never let failure deter you.
Yeah, this is a big one. Sales is tough.
It is.
And a lot of times it's a numbers game, right? You're going to face rejection. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to miss goals.
Oh, yeah. You got to have thick skin to be in sales, I think.
You got to be able to bounce back from adversity
Yeah.
to roll with the punches. And that's where resilience comes in.
Yeah. So how do you, as a sales leader, how do you help your team develop that kind of resilience?
It's a great question. You have to create a culture where failure is okay. It's a part of the process.
Part of learning.
Right. It's a learning opportunity. So encourage your team to analyze their losses.
Okay.
Why didn't they get that deal?
Yeah.
What could have been done better?
Okay.
What are the key takeaways? And then share those learnings with each other.
Oh, that's great. So, turn it into a learning experience for the whole team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming anybody.
Yeah.
It's about figuring out what went wrong and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So, having a debrief after a lost deal.
Love that. Absolutely.
Okay, and then the last one, never prioritize your needs over the customers.
Well, this is so important.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of what we're talking about.
It seems obvious.
It does, right.
But it's easy to get caught up
It is.
in, hitting your quota.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure's real.
Right.
You got your own goals. You got your own commission.
And sometimes you're just thinking about that next sale.
Right. You got to put the customer first.
Yeah. So how do you make sure as a sales leader that your team is focused on that?
Well, I think it starts with leadership.
Okay.
Right. If the sales leaders are always pushing for quick wins,
Right.
if they're prioritizing their own needs over the customer's needs, then the team's going to pick up on that.
Right. Like monkey see, monkey do.
Exactly. You got to lead by example.
Okay. But also, how do you build systems, and structures that support that?
That's a good point. You can align your sales goals with customer satisfaction metrics,
Okay.
right? So instead of just looking at revenue,
Yeah.
you look at things like customer lifetime value,
Interesting.
net promoter score, customer retention rates.
Okay.
Right? Those things actually show
So that you're not just
trying to make a quick sale. You're
No.
trying to build long-term relationships.
you're building that loyalty.
Exactly. And, tie compensation and recognition to those metrics,
Okay.
Yeah.
Reward people for doing the right thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And ultimately, happy customers lead to more business.
They do.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win
It's a win-win for everybody.
for everybody.
Yeah.
More business, more referrals, more success.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today.
We had
These 6, mistakes to avoid
huge mistakes.
that honestly anybody can make.
For sure. Even seasoned professionals.
So this has been really helpful. I think, everybody listening is going to have something to think about, to implement.
Hope so.
So, and before we go, I want to remind everybody, if you want to dive deeper into this,
Yes.
check out the Sales Experts website.
They got great resources,
Yeah.
training, blog posts.
Yeah, it's a great resource for sales professionals at all levels.
100%.
All right, so as we wrap up our deep dive into 6 things the best salespeople never do, from the sales experts.
Yeah.
What really stuck out to you the most from all of this?
I think for me what stuck out is like the common thread that runs through all 6 of these points.
Which is that sales success, it's not about like quick wins.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not about using manipulative tactics or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
really about building genuine relationships.
Yeah, building those long-term relationships.
Exactly, with your customers.
Right.
And when you do that, you become a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Somebody they can rely on.
You're helping them achieve their goals.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day
It is.
and like lose sight of that.
Yeah.
So, what's one thing that our listeners could do this week to really put these principles into practice?
That's a great question. I would say pick one of the 6 points we've talked about
Okay.
and make a conscious effort to implement it this week. So, for example, if it's never stop learning,
Okay.
maybe sign up for that online course you've been thinking about.
Right.
Or if it's never ignore customer feedback,
Right.
maybe set up a system to start collecting and analyzing that feedback.
Yeah. Even those small changes
They can make a big difference.
can really add up over time.
Over time, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I encourage everybody to check out the Sales Experts website.
Yeah.
They've got tons of great resources, training programs, blog posts.
Yeah. A lot of really great stuff there.
Yeah,
So if you're looking to, up your sales game,
for sure.
this is a great place to start.
Absolutely.
And remember, it's a journey.
It is.
It's not a destination.
Right.
It's about constantly learning, growing, evolving.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
It's always great to chat with you.
And
And to everyone listening out there, we'll see you on our next deep dive.